So, name's Joe. I also get to do professional photography, and we're in a really, really beautiful place. I figured I'd give a few tips on taking good shots. So the main topics are focus, depth of field, shutter speed, composition, and the subject matter. People should basically know what focus is. You use glass to bend light to get to a focal point. And we know what things out of focus look like. You're pretty trained at this. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on focus. It's something most people understand. Depth of field is the first thing that people don't really know about until they get into photography. This is a shallow depth of field. This is a deep depth of field. That's controlled by the aperture of the lens, which is the little metal sphincter in the camera. A tight f-stop. In this case, 1/8 of the width of the lens makes the light rays more parallel, and therefore your depth of field that gets in focus is much larger, but it lets in a lot less light. A large depth of field means more light gets in, so you can take faster shots, but your depth of field is shallow. You have to play with these things as you're shooting. So this is an example. This is about an f1.4, and that's about an f8. So you get more or less background, and you can dial that as you're playing. These are some examples of my photography. This is obviously a very narrow depth of field in a macro shot. This is some sand. You can see that it fades out in the foreground and the background. This is a helium balloon that's really, really far away from this tree. There's a bee up close, and you can see there's still a pretty narrow depth of field. This is in Tulum in Mexico, and that's a very long depth of field with a lot of light, so it can still be a fast shot. This is a bridge going over Shasta. Obviously long depth of field, you have to hold the camera really still. This is laying on the sand next to a windsurfer guy to shoot up and get their parachute and their head mostly in focus. This is at Kennedy Space Center looking at the cables. And they even use depth of field things in the last several years in video games to give more sort of feeling of depth. So computers simulate this very easily, and it makes the game more neato. Shutter speed. Slow shutter speeds cause things that are moving to blend together in the shot, and then fast shutter speeds stop action. Here's an example of a bumblebee flying into a hole. You have to use pretty fast shutter to get their wings to stop. This is a shot of about an inch of water rolling across some rocks. Very fast shutter speed, really good lighting. This is obviously a race car. This is in downtown San Jose, and I had to play a lot to get it so I could get the car burning out, and I'm actually standing in the pits. I had the super pass for this. The wheels are spinning, but the car is still frozen. This is actually on a tripod in the water, in a creek. Slow shutter speed, very dark day. It was actually on Easter several years ago. But it had to do a really long exposure to get the water effect into brightening the picture. Fireworks, really, really hard to photograph. It's a really fun thing that I do every 4th of July. Go try to get a good shot. Most important thing, though, is composition. Or not, it's the second most important thing. Visual balance with shape and color. You want to frame your photo using the rule of thirds or whatever, just to make the composition of the photo interesting. These are some twigs up on the top of Mount Hamilton. This is a nuclear reactor, but I'm on the ground, and this weed is about 1.5 inches tall. These rocks, each pebble is probably 3 millimeters wide in it's a very beat up rock on a beach. This is at Tulum again, but the composition now, the same shot you saw earlier, is about the sky, and this is on a big wall, or I have a big one of these, put them on a wall in my house. A little snowman. I really like what the slats were doing. Projector doesn't do these justice, it's frustrating, but it's like a little shell that actually has a bead of water over it, so it's really flowing, like the water just ran across it. This is pulling over on the side of the road on the way to Tahoe. Lake up in Tahoe, in a cave about 300 feet underground. Another pond in Tahoe. Surfing, high shutter speed, of course. Some flowers. This balloon is actually big enough to drive a semi through. It's a very cool subject. Subjects. This is a little rubber pig that I've taken on a lot of trips. Just took the bacon off this plate. I'm running out of time, but get out and photograph cool stuff, really, is the main rule of thumb.